On our pearl wedding anniversary, my husband gave me divorce papers instead of a gift. 30 years is long enough, he announced in front of all our guests. I want someone young now, and you need to be out of the house by next week. He seemed to have forgotten that my grandmother left me that house. His mother, Eleanor Mitchell, just smiled silently. I rose, took the microphone, and said something that left him speechless. Let me tell you what happened, honey. That night, I woke up to whispers from behind the bedroom door. My husband, Brandon Mitchell, was on the phone with his mother again at 2:30 in the morning. His voice sounded strangely excited. I lay still in the dark, catching snippets of the conversation. We have to do this right, Brandon's voice insisted. She won't suspect a thing. Of course not, son, his mother replied. I tensed. What were they plotting in secret? And why now? Just a few weeks before our milestone anniversary. The hardwood floor creaked as Brandon returned to the room. I quickly shut my eyes, pretending to be asleep. He slipped into bed carefully, but I could feel his body was stiff, restless. The next morning, everything felt odd. Brandon was unnaturally affectionate. Jordan, my love, he said, kissing my cheek. He smelled of expensive cologne. How about we choose the venue for our anniversary today? I want everything to be perfect. Perfect. I raised an eyebrow. In 30 years of marriage, Brandon had never been so enthusiastic about a family celebration. I always organized everything and he only found fault. Fine, I replied carefully, watching him rush off to work. His cell phone was on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a notification. I couldn't help but look. It was a calendar reminder. Call A at 10:30. I asked casually, watering the window plants. Who's the A you have in your contacts? Brandon spun around abruptly. For a second, I saw panic flash in his eyes, but he quickly calmed himself. Anderson, a colleague from Boston, just consulting him on a work issue. Why? I knew my husband like the back of my hand. When he lied, his left eye always twitched just as it was doing now. I see, I replied with a smile. But deep inside my chest tightened. Once he left, I stood by the window, gazing at the gray November sky over Atlanta. 30 years, that's what we'd built together. We met in graduate school. I was a brilliant finance student. He was an up-and-coming investment analyst. We married for love, dreaming of children and a big family. But children never came. Doctors found nothing wrong, but the miracle never happened. Brandon took it hard, especially when his mother, Eleanor, started making passive-aggressive comments about grandchildren. In time, we accepted being childless and focused on the positives. More time for ourselves, for travel, and for career advancement. But something vital had shifted between us. A knock on the door pulled me from my thoughts. Standing there was Eleanor Mitchell, her mother-in-law, with her usual frigid smile. Jordan, dear, she said, entering the house without waiting for an invitation. How are you? Are you preparing for the party? Eleanor always treated me with exaggerated courtesy, but maintained a great distance. In 30 years of marriage, she never once called me her daughter. Slowly but surely, I replied, leading her to the living room. Brandon wants to celebrate at a hotel. Very good, Eleanor responded brightly. A respectable venue with guests. Doing everything at home just doesn't show how important the date is. She began looking around the living room as if evaluating it. I knew that look. It always made me feel, without a single word being spoken, that Eleanor's estate in Buckhead was larger and better decorated. By the way, Jordan, dear, Eleanor said, settling into an armchair. I've been thinking about the future. Brandon is not so young anymore. He's 55, and while we don't have grandchildren, don't you think it would be a good idea to write a will for the family just in case? I felt a chill. What family, Eleanor? We don't have children. Well, for my nephews, she said dismissively, waving her hand. I have 2 nephews, good boys, studying, working. If we don't, the government will take everything. I slowly placed my teacup on the table. And where do you keep the house papers? Eleanor suddenly asked, as if it were a casual afterthought. I'm just thinking about the boys' future. The nephews, the young people. That was it. I understood the subtext. They're in the safe, I replied dryly. But why do you ask? Well, just in case. You never know what might happen. It's good to know where things are. When Eleanor finally left, I sat in silence, piecing things together. The late-night call, Brandon's strange burst of affection, and now Eleanor's pointed questions about the house title. Bit by bit, the puzzle was forming, and I did not like the picture. I went to check Brandon's computer. He had never changed the password before. He always used a simple key the date we met, but it didn't work this time. My heart raced. In 30 years he had never kept secrets from me. I tried his birthday, nothing. I tried his mother's. Nope. Then it occurred to me to try our wedding date, but in reverse. It worked. The browser history opened and what I saw gave me a knot in my stomach. How to divorce when shared assets exist. Spousal rights in property division. Legal advice for separation. He had searched all of this over the past 2 weeks. With trembling fingers I scrolled page after page. How to keep the house in a divorce. Legal tricks for dividing assets. Suddenly my phone rang. It was my friend Keisha. Jordan, you won't believe what I saw. You're Brandon. I saw him at a jeweler's in Lenox Square with a young woman. They were looking at rings. She was clinging to him, hugging him like nothing. What did she look like? I interrupted softly. About 28, blonde, very put together, wearing a super expensive coat, pretty, but she looked superficial. And they were so openly affectionate. Are you okay, Jordan? Yes, I lied. Everything's fine. But nothing was fine. That evening, Brandon returned with a bouquet of roses and a box of fancy chocolates. For my one and only true love, he said confidently, kissing my lips. One and only. How ironic, I thought. I looked him straight in the eye. We need to talk seriously about our future. Brandon tensed. It was subtle, but I saw it. Talk about what? He asked, turning on the TV, pretending to be absorbed in the programming. Everything's fine, right? The anniversary is in 1 week. All our friends will be there. Let's not spoil the mood with serious topics. We'll talk after the party. After the party. That meant something big was planned for the party itself. I nodded, feigning acceptance, but felt an icy coldness within. After 30 years I knew my husband well. He was preparing something calmly and coldly involving his mother and surely a lawyer. What Brandon didn't know was that I had an ace up my sleeve, something that could unravel all his plans. And for now I wasn't going to tell him a thing. The next day I woke up with a knot in my stomach as if a terrible tragedy had struck the day before, and I was just learning to live with it. Brandon left early without breakfast. I have a meeting, he said. A meeting? I thought bitterly. I knew exactly who that meeting was with. At 10:30 the home phone rang. Brandon had forgotten his cell phone, leaving it face down in the kitchen. I didn't answer, but the answering machine recorded the message. It's Mom. I spoke to Mr. Caldwell. Everything can be arranged. The important thing is that she doesn't suspect anything until the very last moment. Call me when you're free. Caldwell, the supposed Boston colleague. Now it all made sense. I felt the ground give way beneath me. 30 years, 3 decades beside a man who was now planning his betrayal like office paperwork. I approached Brandon's phone. It required a 6-digit code. I tried the date we met, August 15, 1993. Nope. I tried Eleanor's birthday. Nothing. Then I remembered the blonde from the jeweler's. My intuition told me to try February 14th, Valentine's Day. It worked. The lover's birthday. The text confirmed everything. Amber, my love, a little more patience. After the anniversary, everything will be resolved. The house will be ours. B, you said we'd be living together by Christmas. I'm tired of hiding. My love, everything is going according to plan. Mom has already taken care of things. Jordan suspects nothing. Caldwell says if we play this right she'll only get half. I'll keep the house. I slumped into a chair, my hands shaking. They were planning my life as if I were a piece of second-hand property. Brandon, his mother, the lawyer Caldwell, the mistress Amber, all tangled in a trap where I was the prey. And the worst was yet to come. Hey Mom. Are you sure the house title is in both our names? Maybe we got lucky and it's just mine. Son, I saw the copies when you bought it. Both names are on it. But Caldwell says there are ways. The important thing is she signs the waiver. And if she won't sign, she will sign. After what we're going to do to her at the party, she won't have any other option. What did they plan to do to me? I felt anxiety rising in my throat. They were going to humiliate me in front of everyone, accuse me of something. Without wasting time, I copied all the important messages to my own phone and put Brandon's phone back where I found it. I needed a plan. I needed help. I called Keisha Martinez, my college friend, now a family attorney. We didn't talk often, but our friendship remained strong. Jordan, Keisha said when she answered. Long time no talk. How are you? Can we meet today? I asked, trying to sound calm. I need a consultation. Sure, I'm free at 5. Come to the office and we'll talk. Keisha's office was downtown in a modern high-rise. She greeted me with a hug but immediately noticed the tension. Sit down. Tell me everything. What happened? I took a deep breath. Let's just say an acquaintance of mine is having trouble with her husband. He wants a divorce but is hiding it, and it seems he's setting a trap. Keisha looked at me intently. You sure this is a hypothetical acquaintance, Jordan? I was silent for a few seconds, then told her everything. The late night calls, the phone messages, Amber, my mother-in-law's scheming, everything. Keisha listened occasionally, asking for clarification. I understand, she said finally. This is serious, but you're not lost. The good news is you reacted in time. Tell me about the house. When did you buy it? Whose name is on the title? We put both names on it in 2003. Equal shares. Are you formally employed? Yes, I'm the CFO at Horizon Capital Management. I've been there for 18 years, and the lake house is also in both names, but it's not worth much. The main house is the main asset. Keisha jotted down notes. Jordan, they can't do anything to you if you keep a clear head. In a divorce, everyone receives what is legally theirs. No one can force you to waive your share. But it's clear they are planning something dirty. They want to put you in a weak emotional position, a scandal, an accusation, something to break you. You need to be ready. How do I prepare? Gather evidence. Take photos of the messages. Record conversations if you can. Move some of the money into an account only in your name. Most importantly, don't let them know that you know what they're doing. I nodded. For the first time in days, I felt something close to relief. I had a plan. I had support. Thanks, Keisha. How much do I owe you? Keisha smiled. Nothing, girl. Friends don't charge. Just keep me in the loop. And remember, no matter what happens, you are not alone or defenseless. I returned home determined to act. But what I found upon arrival confirmed the war had already begun. Brandon was by the entrance checking himself in the mirror. You look kind of run down today, huh? He blurted out without looking at me directly. Forgive me, but yes, Jordan, you've let yourself go a bit lately. Look, turning 52 isn't the end of the world, but you need to take care of yourself. Go to the gym, see the dermatologist, get something done. I saw Keisha's assistant today. She's 28 but looks 25, very polished. And you? Well, you understand. He was comparing me to younger women, setting the stage to justify his betrayal. I have a meeting tomorrow, he announced suddenly. It's Saturday, but it will take all day. Another date with Amber. That's fine, I replied calmly. And Sunday I'm going with Mom. I'm going to set up her new smart TV. Spending time with the trader's family. That night, when Brandon was in the shower, I reviewed our joint bank account online. In the last month, $40,000 had been withdrawn in several transactions. Gifts for Amber, payments to the lawyer, and who knows what else. All with our shared money. I let out a nervous, brittle laugh. They were using my own money to plan my downfall. But I had an ace up my sleeve, something they didn't know. A week prior, a letter had arrived from a law firm. My grandmother, my mother's mother, had passed away in Charleston. She had no other children or grandchildren. She left her entire estate to me, her only grandchild. This included a historic townhouse in Charleston valued at $1.2 million. A trust fund with $850,000. Another investment property in Savannah, Georgia. Total value over $4 million. I hadn't told anyone. I wanted to surprise Brandon on our anniversary, but now that money and property were my salvation. I opened my laptop and began researching how to register the inheritance, transfer the funds to my personal account, and legally protect myself from the people who saw me as a fool. Brandon thought he held all the cards, but the game was just beginning. On Monday, I woke up with a clear plan. First, I visited a lawyer, but not the one handling my grandmother's case. I went to see an old acquaintance, Mr. Harrison, the real estate lawyer who had helped us purchase the house years ago. Jordan Williams, how many years? And how is Brandon Mitchell doing? Mr. Harrison, an older gentleman, greeted me with a smile. Mr. Harrison, I need your help, I said, entering his office. But it has to be strictly confidential. The lawyer's face grew serious. Sit down. I'm listening. Do you remember our house in Druid Hills? You did the title work in 2003. Of course, a very good property in a fine neighborhood. Do you recall who purchased it first? I mean, where did the money come from? Mr. Harrison frowned, opened an old file and searched for a moment. Here it is. It was an unusual case. The money came directly from your grandmother's trust, and in the deed of gift, You are listed as the sole recipient. Brandon was added 2 months later as your husband. I felt a surge of warmth in my chest. So it's formally a premarital asset. Formally, yes. Your grandmother gifted it to you before Brandon's name appeared on the documents. In case of divorce, that can make all the difference. He could only claim something if he proves he invested in major renovations. I smiled faintly. Brandon never spent a dime on the house. I had done everything myself. Could you give me a confirming document? Of course. Come back tomorrow afternoon. It will be ready. Leaving the office, I felt different. After so many days, I finally felt strong, protected. But what awaited me at home left me breathless. A courier delivered a thick envelope from South Carolina. The final papers for my grandmother's estate. I read the lines with the help of a summary. A townhouse in Charleston valued at $1.2 million, a trust fund with $850,000, and the investment property in Savannah. More than $4 million in total. I sat in the living room. I was now a wealthy, independent, free woman. But Brandon shouldn't know. Not yet. My phone rang. It was Brandon, his voice overly cheerful. Jordan, my love, I was thinking, what if we really celebrate our anniversary? Colleagues, friends, everyone. Why such a big deal, B? Why? It's 30 years, a pearl anniversary. I want everyone to see what a perfect family we have. I already reserved the grand ballroom at the St. Regis for 150 people. 150 people for my public humiliation. Isn't that expensive, Brandon? We're supposed to be saving. Don't worry about it, he interrupted. The money is there. The important thing is the impression. We'll invite my boss, yours. Everyone needs to see how happy we are. What a cynical lie. Fine, I said calmly. Whatever you say. Perfect. I have a meeting with some partners. We'll talk tonight. Partners. I knew what that meant. In the afternoon, Eleanor Mitchell arrived with a gift. Jordan, dear, she said in a sugary voice, handing me an envelope. This is from me to you. It was a consultation with an excellent family lawyer. Just in case, you never know. I opened the envelope, a business card, Caldwell & Associates, Divorce and Property Law, with a note. Free consultation anytime. The audacity. They were giving me a consultation with the very lawyer who was planning my betrayal. Thank you, I said dryly. Very thoughtful. I worry about you, daughter. Daughter. For the first time in 30 years, my mother-in-law called me that just before stabbing me in the back. After Eleanor left, I began to clean. In one of Brandon's jackets, I found a crumpled card. Mr. Caldwell, Family Law, Divorce, Asset Division, Alimony. The same lawyer, the same plan. Brandon came home late that night, cheerful and smelling of expensive perfume. He hugged me. Everything is ready. Restaurant menu, guests. It will be unforgettable. I looked at him coldly. He was right. It was going to be unforgettable, just not the way he imagined. B, what cologne are you wearing? That's not yours. He hesitated. I got on the elevator with the neighbor. He wears a very strong perfume and it clung to my jacket. One lie after another. By the way, he said, walking toward the window. At the anniversary, I'm going to give a special speech about our life and our future plans. What plans? It's a surprise. Surprise. I felt a chill. I couldn't sleep that night. Around 1:30, I heard a murmur. Brandon was on the phone in the hallway. I got up quietly and pressed my ear to the bedroom door. Mom, everything is perfect. The hotel is booked. Guests are confirmed. After the toast, it will all just happen. Are you sure she doesn't suspect anything? How would she suspect? She's naive like a child. She's always trusted me and she still does. And if she doesn't want to sign the papers, she will sign. After what I tell her in front of everyone, she'll have no other option. Everyone will see what she's really like, you know. B, don't you think it would be better to do it privately at home without a scene? No, Mom. It has to be in front of everyone. That way she won't be able to make a scene or demand explanations. She'll go straight home and Caldwell will be waiting for her there with the papers. Quick, clean, and no drama. And Amber already knows. Of course, she's even coming to the anniversary. I want her to meet my colleagues. I'm going to introduce her as my new marketing director. You're cruel. It's not cruelty, Mom. It's being practical. 30 years was enough. I deserve to be happy too, even if it's at her expense. I went back to bed but couldn't sleep. So Amber was going to be at the party too. She was going to witness the humiliation of her rival and then take her place in the home. That's what they thought. In the morning I went to the bank. I opened a personal account and transferred half of the money from the joint savings. If Brandon wanted to continue spending on his mistress, he would do it with his half. Then I went to the lawyer for the document confirming that the house was mine from before the marriage. Next I went to work. Mr. Green, I said to my boss, entering his office. Can I speak with you? Of course, Jordan Williams, is everything all right? Everything is fine for now. I just wanted to warn you that I will soon be entering a difficult personal phase. Divorce? He asked, frowning. Seriously? I thought you two were solid. You even invited me to your anniversary. That's exactly why I want to warn you. If things go wrong, I hope I can count on your support. My work won't be affected. You are the best CFO we've had in 18 years. Whatever happens, your job is safe. That night, while Brandon was at another meeting, I took out the estate documents. I needed a clear, well-thought-out plan. The Savannah property was empty. My grandmother had rented it out, but the contract had ended a month ago. I could move there after the divorce. With the money in the trust fund, I had financial independence for years. And most importantly, the document proving the Atlanta house was mine from before the marriage. Brandon would never see that coming. Tomorrow was the anniversary. He thought he would deliver the final blow, but he was the one about to be blindsided. I put all the papers in the safe and smiled. Thursday morning, I went to the estate attorney's office. I needed to formalize the inheritance to access my grandmother's accounts. The attorney, a distinguished woman with silver hair, reviewed the documents carefully. Everything in order, Mrs. Mitchell. Your grandmother was a very prudent woman. The trust fund will be unlocked in 1 week. And regarding the Savannah property, ownership passes to your name immediately. Here are the papers. You can dispose of it as you wish. I carefully put the documents in my bag. I now owned 3 properties, over $1 million in cash, and most valuable of all, complete freedom. That same day, I opened another account to prepare for the trust transfer. The bank advisor, a young woman, looked at the numbers in the papers with wide eyes. Wow, you did very well with the inheritance, didn't you? As I smiled. My grandmother was an incredible woman. Leaving the bank, I felt a weight lift from me. For the first time in years, I felt truly free and independent. I no longer cared what Brandon planned. That was no longer my problem. But the surprise waiting for me outside the St. Regis Hotel was a sharp blow. I had gone to check on the anniversary party arrangements, and right by the entrance, a young blonde woman in an expensive coat was talking on the phone. "Be my love, it's incredible," Amber was saying in a sickly sweet voice. "The ballroom is huge. The decor is divine. You promised we'd live in a huge house soon, and I can already imagine hosting parties there." It was Amber, my husband's mistress. She was only a few feet away, talking excitedly about the life she would have with him. I stood still watching her. There was no doubt she was pretty, about 28, great figure, well-kept hair, perfect nails, but her eyes were empty, cold, and calculating. "Of course, I understand tomorrow will be difficult," Amber continued. "But you said after your speech she'd understand everything, and I'll be there as your new marketing director. Romantic, right? Publicly humiliating your wife is romantic." I walked closer. "Excuse me, do you know where the manager is?" Amber turned, looked me up and down with disdain. "No idea," she replied coldly. "I don't work here." She returned to her phone. There's some lady asking me questions here. Okay, see you tonight. I love you." Some lady? I smiled to myself. Tomorrow this lady would deliver a big surprise. The event manager, a kindly woman, received me with a smile. "You're here about tomorrow's anniversary. Mr. Mitchell already paid for everything. Ballroom for 150 people, banquet, live band. And how much did all that cost?" $65,000. "Your husband requested the best of the best. $65,000 to humiliate me in public." I nodded. "I see. Can I see the ballroom?" Yes, the room was luxurious. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, immaculate white tablecloths, enormous mirrors on the walls. All the guests would have a perfect view of the spectacle. "Where will the microphone for the toasts be?" I asked. "Right here in the center," the manager said. Mr. Mitchell insisted that everyone hear him. Of course, so no one misses the humiliation. At home, Brandon was waiting, nervous, pacing with the paper in his hand. "Ah, Jordan," he said, quickly putting the paper away. "Where were you?" "At the hotel, checking everything." "What did you think of it?" "Impressive. $65,000 for one night. Seriously, B, don't you think that's too much? We have other plans, right?" "Don't worry about it," he scoffed. "The money is there. The important thing is to make a good impression on the guests or on the mistress. That night, Eleanor Mitchell arrived completely excited. "Son, are you ready? Did you rehearse your speech?" "Of course, Mom. Everything will be perfect. Don't worry." She patted his shoulder. "Your speech will be a success. Everyone will see that you made the right decision." The right decision. I watched them from the kitchen, the rage building inside. "Mom, what if she makes a scene?" Brandon asked. "She won't," Eleanor replied confidently. "With so many people, she'll hold it together. She's an educated woman. They'll settle things at home." "And Caldwell, is he ready?" "Yes, the papers are done. All she needs to do is sign. After your speech, she'll have no choice." I quietly went to the bedroom and took my own papers from the drawer. I had everything ready. I put all the documents into a small folder. The paper stating the house was mine from before the marriage, the estate documents, and the statement for my new bank account. Tomorrow those documents would change everything. Later that night, when Eleanor had left, Brandon locked himself in his study. I heard him rehearsing his speech, murmuring words to himself. I approached the door and listened intently. "Dear friends, today is a special day. 30 years ago I made a decision that seemed right. But life moves on, people change, and sometimes you have to have the courage to admit your mistakes." Mistakes. 30 years of marriage was his mistake. I thank Jordan for these years, but honesty demands I speak the truth. We are different people with different values, with different plans for the future, and I have made a decision. The rest was muffled, but the meaning was clear. I returned to the bedroom. I had no desire to sleep. In the morning, Brandon woke up in a good mood. "Jordan," he said, adjusting his tie knot in front of the mirror. "Today is a great day." "Yes, our anniversary." "Not just that," he said, smiling strangely. "Tomorrow your life is going to change, and so is mine. Completely." "Completely?" "You're going to be surprised." "Surprised?" "B, can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "What is it?" "Did you ever really love me? Truly?" He froze, tie in hand. "What a weird question. Why are you asking that on such an important day?" "Just curious." "Of course I loved you," he said without looking at me. "And I still love you in my own way." In his own way, like someone who cares for an old piece of furniture that has served its purpose. "I understand," I said quietly. Throughout the day, Brandon was frantic, calling the hotel, checking the guest list, giving orders. By the evening, he was visibly anxious. "Are you ready, Jordan?" I stood before the mirror in a new elegant emerald green dress bought especially for this day. "Ready? Then let's go. It's time for the truth to be known." The truth. I grabbed my purse where the documents rested. Yes, it's time for everyone to know the truth. We didn't speak on the drive. Brandon was nervous, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. I watched the city lights through the window. 30 years ago we also rode in silence to the courthouse. But that silence was one of excitement and love. Today it was the silence before a battle. "Jordan," Brandon said when we arrived at the hotel, "no matter what happens today, I want you to know that I wish you the best." "The best?" What a cruel mockery. "Thank you, B," I replied with a serene smile. "And I wish you receive exactly what you deserve." The ballroom at the St. Regis Hotel sparkled. 150 guests were seated at round tables with white orchids and gold candles. At the head table sat the hosts. I smiled and accepted congratulations, but inside I was tense. The blow was coming any minute. "Jordan, you look stunning today," said Monica, a coworker. 30 years together. How romantic. "Yes," I said, looking around. "Very unexpected. All of it." In one corner of the room stood Amber, Brandon's mistress. She had been introduced as his new marketing director. Young, pretty in a very expensive dress. She chatted calmly with some colleagues as if nothing were amiss. "Brandon Mitchell, congratulations on your anniversary," said Mr. Marcus Green, the CEO of Brandon's company. "Rarely does one see such solid couples." "Thank you, Mr. Green," Brandon replied, shaking his hand. "Today is a special day. I even prepared a very special speech." A speech. My throat went dry. Eleanor Mitchell went from table to table receiving compliments for her good son and the ideal wife he had. Her eyes glowed with satisfaction. She knew what was about to happen. At a small table in the back, a man in his 50s in a dark suit sat very seriously. I didn't know him, but I recognized his picture. Mr. Caldwell, the lawyer. He was there in case a signature was needed. "Dear guests," the voice of the master of ceremony sounded over the microphone. "May I ask for your attention? Brandon would like to say a few words in honor of his wife." A silence fell. Everyone turned toward the main table. Brandon stood up, took the microphone and smiled broadly. Friends, thank you for being here on this important day. 30 years is no small thing. It's 3 decades alongside one person. The guests nodded, raising their glasses. I've thought a lot about our life together, Brandon continued. About what united us, what made us happy, and what didn't so much. I tensed. Starting, I thought. And I realized something very important. People change. What seems right when you're young can eventually turn out to be a mistake. The ballroom grew quieter. People exchanged confused glances. 30 years ago, I chose the woman who would be my life partner, guided by youthful emotions. But life taught me to see things more clearly. Brandon, I murmured. What are you talking about? The truth, dear. It's time to stop lying to ourselves. He turned to the guests, his voice harder, firmer. Dear friends, I want to be honest with you and with myself. For 30 years, I endured a life with a woman who is not right for me. A gray, boring woman who doesn't know how to be the partner of a successful man. The ballroom erupted in surprised murmurs. Brandon, are you crazy? Someone yelled. Quite the opposite, he said calmly. I'm finally thinking clearly. Jordan needs to understand this. Our marriage is over. I'm filing for divorce. The room was stunned. Some gasped. Others held their hands to their chests. His mother, Eleanor, smiled triumphantly. Furthermore, Brandon continued, feeling emboldened, I want a fair division of assets. Jordan must leave the house. It's time for a new life, new relationships. He looked pointedly at Amber, the blonde, who stood in the back, barely concealing a victorious smirk. Is this a joke? A woman asked, bewildered. Are you in your right mind, Brandon? His boss demanded. More than ever, he replied coldly. I have the right to be happy and I'm going to exercise it. Jordan will receive what the law dictates and we will separate on good terms. And that young girl is your new conquest? One of my friends shouted, pointing at Amber. Amber is a wonderful woman. She understands what I need, Brandon said openly. Unlike other people. That was enough. I slowly rose and gently took the microphone from my stunned husband. Thank you, Brandon, I said in a quiet, almost sweet voice. Very honest. The room fell silent. Everyone expected tears, drama for me to run out. You know, dear friends, I continued. Brandon is right about one thing. Enough of the lies and I want to speak the truth too. Brandon frowned. This was not in his script. The truth is, I knew about this whole charade for 3 weeks. I knew about Amber, about the lawyer Caldwell, who's right over there in the corner, and about your plans to make me waive my rights to the house. Mr. Caldwell turned pale and tried to slip out unnoticed, but annoyed guests blocked his path. Jordan, what are you talking about? Brandon tried to interrupt. That your plan fell apart, darling. You see, I said, pulling a folder from my purse. You made a tiny mistake. Our house is not a shared asset. It was a gift from my grandmother in my name before the marriage. I have the document from the real estate lawyer. Brandon took a step back. That can't be. And what's more, I continued, 3 weeks ago I received an inheritance from my grandmother in Charleston, a townhouse in Charleston, another investment property in Savannah, and over $1 million in cash. The silence in the room was absolute. So B, what property division are you talking about? You'll get half of the lake house and half of your car. Everything else is mine. Amber against the wall turned paper white. And now the fun part, I said with a smile. Do you know how much your successful man spent on this little play to publicly humiliate his wife? $65,000 of our joint savings. The guests began to murmur in outrage. But I'm not spiteful, I continued. Brandon, you are free. Take your wonderful woman, as you called her, and live wherever you like, just not in my house. Wait, Brandon whispered. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Caldwell can leave. I don't need him anymore. I then turned to the guest. Dear friends, I apologize for ruining your evening, but sometimes the truth is more important than appearances. Thank you for coming. Now you know who is who. I placed the microphone on the table and walked toward the exit. Behind me, a scandal erupted. Brandon, you are a complete scoundrel, a woman yelled. How could you do that to your wife? 30 years and you pull this. Amber tried to leave discreetly, but a furious group of guests blocked her path. And what about you, homewrecker? Did you think stealing another woman's husband would be easy? Have you no shame? Eleanor Mitchell went from table to table trying to explain, but no one listened. Meanwhile, I walked out of the hotel and breathed the cool night air. Freedom. I paused at the door and looked back at the chaos inside. Through the large windows, I could see the house of cards Brandon had built over months collapsing. He was in the middle of the ballroom, pale, confused, like an actor who had forgotten his lines. The microphone lay on the floor, guests yelling around him. Mr. Marcus Green, the CEO, approached him. Brandon Mitchell, I am deeply disappointed in you after this show. I think we will have to review your position in the company. But Mr. Green, you don't understand. Brandon stammered. It's not what it looks like. Jordan twisted everything. Twisted? Interjected Monica, one of my coworkers. We all heard what you said. 30 years enduring a colorless woman. Aren't you ashamed? In another corner, a different scene unfolded. Amber, finally realizing her dream of living in a luxury house was over, pushed her way through the angry guests. She grabbed Brandon's sleeve. What's going on? You promised me a house. Where's the money you gave me for our new life? Brandon whispered, nervously looking around. Not here. Why not here? Amber yelled, growing hysterical. I've been waiting for 3 months. You said we'd live like kings after the divorce, and now what? Guests turned curious, some already recording on their cell phones. Stop it, Brandon pleaded. We'll talk later. But Amber let out a bitter, almost hysterical laugh. Talk about what? You don't have a house or money. You fooled me. She turned to the guests. Do you want to know the truth? This successful man promised me riches for 3 months. He bought me jewelry with his wife's money. He promised me a huge house in Buckhead. Shut up. Brandon screamed in desperation, but it was too late. And he also took out loans using their shared assets as collateral. She spat out, getting carried away. He thought his wife would never find out. He took $30,000 from SunTrust Bank and another $25,000 from Wells Fargo. He spent it all on me. The room was silent. Even I hadn't known about that. Eleanor Mitchell, who had tried to be inconspicuous, rushed toward him. Son, what is this woman saying? What loans? What inheritance of Jordan's? Mom, now is not the time, Brandon mumbled. Not the time. I mortgaged my estate to give you money for the lawyer. And now what? How am I going to pay another blow? Even his mother was now in debt because of his scheme. Wait. One of the guests intervened. Did I understand correctly? The 3 of you planned to deceive Jordan. No 3. 4. Amber injected venomously. The lawyer Caldwell too. He was going to make her sign the waiver to the house. Everyone turned to the corner where Caldwell had been sitting, but his chair was empty. The lawyer had already bolted. Snake. Eleanor Mitchell shrieked, lunging at Amber. This is all your fault. You drove my son crazy. My fault? Amber retorted indignantly. It was your son who groomed me. He told me his wife was a fool, that he'd manipulate her easily. Men separated them just as a fight almost broke out. What a disgrace, a woman said loudly. Mr. Green, doesn't Jordan work for you? Yes, and she is the best CFO I've had in 18 years, the CEO said firmly. After this circus, the only thing I'm going to do is raise her salary, and this guy, he looked at Brandon with contempt, should look for another job. With this reputation, he won't get far. Brandon went back and forth between his mother, his mistress, and the indignant guests trying to fix something. People, you don't understand, he yelled. I have the right to be happy. 30 years is too much. An older woman approached him. Aunt Claire, my aunt. And did you think about how she felt living 30 years with an egoist like you? Aunt Claire is right. Other family members of mine supported her. What a disgrace. People like you don't belong in our family. Good thing Jordan found out in time, added my cousin Marcus. Otherwise, you would have kept fooling her whole life. Hey, what if we upload this to social media? One of the young guests said. Let everyone know who this guy Mitchell is. Yes, others agreed. We have to trend the hashtag Pearl Anniversary Trader. Oh wait, Brandon begged. Don't do it. This is my private life. Private? Amber laughed. You humiliated your wife in front of 150 people, and now you care about privacy. Slowly the guests began to leave. First my family, then my coworkers, and then their acquaintances. As they left, each one gave their opinion. Brandon Mitchell, a colleague, said on his way out. After tonight, don't even say you know me. What a shame for the family, a neighbor muttered. And now, how is he going to face people? You're trash, one of the men said bluntly as he passed. You exposed your wife like she was a joke in front of everyone. Half an hour later, only the protagonists of the drama remained in the ballroom. Brandon, Eleanor, Amber, and a few staff watching curiously. Now what? Amber asked, fixing her disheveled hair. Do you have any money at all, B? Where from? He complained. I spent it all on the party and your gifts and the loans. Who's going to pay them? I don't know. Maybe I'll sell the car. The car? Amber laughed bitterly. Are you crazy? That won't even cover the debt. And what about me? I left my ex for you. I don't know, Brandon repeated. I don't know what to do. Eleanor Mitchell sat with her face in her hands. And what am I going to tell Caldwell? He charges for every consultation and I even put my house up as collateral. Mom, Brandon said, approaching her. We'll find a solution. A solution? She lifted her face, her eyes red. I'm 73. I'm left homeless because of your foolishness. Then Amber stood up, adjusted her purse and said, you know what? I'm leaving. You two are utterly useless. B, don't ever call me again. And the money you owe me for the last 3 months, forget it. Consider it a payment for this life lesson. He paused at the door and turned. Your wife is one badass woman. It's a shame I only met the real her today. Those are the women who deserve respect. She left, the sound of her heels echoing sharply. Brandon and his mother were left alone in the ballroom amidst half-eaten plates and spilled glasses. B, Eleanor said softly. What if it's not too late? What if we go see Jordan and ask for forgiveness? Brandon shook his head. It's too late, Mom. You saw her face. She will never forgive us. Then what are we going to do? I don't know, he repeated for the 3rd time. I swear I don't know. Meanwhile, I was in a taxi back to the house watching the city lights. In my purse, I carried the titles to 3 properties and a bank statement showing over $1 million. The driver, an older man, looked at me in the rearview mirror. Beautiful night, isn't it? Yes, I said, smiling. Very beautiful. You could say it changed my life. It's good. Some days just change everything. That's exactly right, I replied. Everything changed. And indeed my life changed forever. 3 months later, I was in court watching the life of the man I had been married to for 30 years fall apart. Brandon looked 10 years older. Gray hair, a worn face, a cheap suit instead of his usual expensive ones. The judge, an elderly woman with glasses, reviewed the documents carefully. Very well, she said finally. The court decides the following. The house in Druid Hills is the separate premarital property of Mrs. Jordan Williams and is not subject to division. Brandon panicked. His lawyer, no longer Caldwell but a young public defender, just threw up his hands. The Lake House property is considered marital property and is divided in half. The same goes for the Lexus sedan. Your Honor, Brandon's lawyer stood up. My client used that car for work. Denied. The judge replied dryly. The car was purchased with common marital funds. I said nothing. My friend and lawyer Keisha smiled discreetly. Everything was going according to plan. Furthermore, the judge continued, it was proven that Mr. Brandon Mitchell concealed significant debts from his spouse. A $30,000 loan at SunTrust Bank, a $25,000 loan at Wells Fargo, and a $10,000 quick loan. The total debt is $65,000. But those are his personal debts, the young lawyer protested. According to family code, the judge replied calmly, debts incurred during the marriage are the responsibility of both parties. However, since the money was not used for family welfare, but for the personal affairs of the petitioner, he shall be solely responsible for their repayment. Brandon went even paler. $65,000 in debt, and it was all his. This court solemnly decides, the judge concluded, to dissolve the marriage between Brandon Mitchell and Jordan Williams. The respondent retains the house and all bank accounts. The petitioner retains half the lake house value and half the car's value. No alimony is assigned as there are no minor children. The gavel strike marked the end of a 30-year marriage. Leaving the courthouse, I felt a strange peace, as if a great weight had finally been lifted. Jordan! Brandon shouted. Wait! I turned. My ex-husband stood on the steps, clutching a folder of documents. What do you want to say? Forgive me, he said in a low voice. I was a selfish fool. You didn't deserve what I did to you. I looked at him closely. Was it sincere remorse, or did he just want to make me feel bad? Brandon, I said calmly, I don't hold a grudge. We're just very different people. You wanted an easy life at others' expense. I am used to fighting for what is mine. Could we see each other sometimes as friends? No, I replied softly but firmly. I'm sorry, but no, it's better if we each go our own way. I turned and walked toward my car, a new elegant Mercedes I had bought with part of the Charleston inheritance. Life continued and everyone got what they deserved. A month after the divorce, Brandon lost his job. The video of the anniversary party went viral on social media, and his company's CEO no longer wanted to deal with the scandal. Brandon Mitchell, his boss, told him on that last day, "I can't have someone on my team who made such a public spectacle. But I'm a good professional." "Maybe so, but your reputation is in the gutter." "I'm sorry." Finding a job was difficult. Everyone recognized him. The video even had the #AnniversaryTrader trending. Nobody wanted to hire a man like that. He ended up working as a rideshare driver with his old Toyota Camry, which he had to buy back from me for half its value, $18,000. He now lived with his mother in her small 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. Eleanor had to sell her Buckhead estate to pay the debts and buy something smaller and cheaper. She would say to him at night, looking at the cracked walls, "Don't you wish you had listened to me? Never gotten involved with that, Amber?" "It's too late, Mom." Brandon would reply, counting his day's earnings. Too late for regrets. And Amber, she was more than fine. 2 months after the scandal, she married a 55-year-old entrepreneur who owned a chain of car dealerships. He was wealthy, though not very smart. He believed her whole story about a toxic relationship with a married man. The wedding photo Amber uploaded to social media showed luxurious bouquets and gold jewelry. The caption read, "Finally found true love. #happy. #new life." Brandon saw those photos and let out a bitter smile. Amber got what she wanted, a husband with money. But it wasn't him. "I lived a completely different life. I moved to my grandmother's townhouse in Charleston. It was a spacious, light-filled home with a view of the historic district, a true oasis amidst the city's charm. I didn't want to be a CFO anymore. With the money I inherited, I opened a small consulting firm specializing in financial literacy for women going through divorce. It was my new calling." Jordan Williams, Mr. Green, said when I resigned, "We don't want you to leave. Are you sure you won't reconsider?" "Thank you," I replied with a smile. "But I found what I'm truly passionate about. I'm dedicating myself to helping other women. Well, I wish you the best of luck. And you know what? After everything that happened with your ex-husband, many of our female employees look up to you. A woman has to know how to defend herself." One evening, my friend Keisha came to visit. "You look so content," she said, looking at the cozy living room. "Do you feel avenged?" I replied thoughtfully. "I don't feel vengeance. I feel relief. That wasn't vengeance. I just defended my rights. The truth always wins, even if it takes time." We drank tea on the veranda, watching the lights of Charleston shine. "Do you regret those 30 years? "No," I said, shaking my head. "Those 30 years taught me something invaluable. To only rely on myself and to value honesty above everything else." My consulting firm employed 8 people, talented young professionals. We helped women navigate divorces, protect their assets, and rebuild their lives. Jordan, my assistant Lisa, said one day, "Your story is very special. My sister told me she was at that anniversary. She works with your ex-boss. He says there are few women like you." "I don't consider myself a strong woman," I responded. "I just decided not to be a victim." A year later, I received a letter from Brandon. "Jordan, I don't know if you'll read this. I just want to say that I understand. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I lost you because I was foolish and greedy. I don't ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that you deserve the best in the world. Be happy, Brandon." I read the letter and filed it away in a drawer. No anger, no sadness, just a memory of a past life. That night, I went out onto the veranda with a cup of coffee. Charleston glittered with lights, music played in the distance, and the air smelled of magnolias. I was free, financially independent, doing what I loved. And for the first time in many years, I felt truly happy. In another part of the city, Brandon drove his old Toyota, carrying passengers, thinking about how one can lose everything in a single night. You see, honey, the truth always conquers the lie, even if it sometimes takes a while. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Don't wait 30 years like I did. And remember this, your worth isn't determined by how someone else values you. It's determined by how you value yourself. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones planning your downfall. But here's what they don't understand. A woman who knows her worth, who knows what she owns, and who refuses to be a victim, that woman is unstoppable. I learned that my grandmother's greatest gift wasn't the money or the properties. It was teaching me that I could stand on my own 2 feet. That I didn't need anyone's permission to be happy. That I didn't need anyone's approval to know my value. So if you're going through something similar right now, if you're feeling that gut instinct that something isn't right, listen to it. Don't ignore those late-night phone calls. Don't dismiss those strange conversations. Don't overlook those withdrawals from your bank account. Your intuition is trying to protect you. And if you discover betrayal, don't crumble. Stand tall. Gather your evidence. Protect your assets. Get your legal advice. And when the moment comes, speak your truth with grace and dignity. You don't need to shout. You don't need to cause a scene. The truth spoken calmly is more powerful than any tantrum. Remember, living well truly is the best revenge. Not because you're trying to hurt anyone, but because you're finally putting yourself first. Because you're finally choosing peace over chaos. Because you're finally choosing truth over comfortable lies. Today I wake up every morning grateful. Grateful for the betrayal that set me free. Grateful for the humiliation that gave me strength. Grateful for the ending that became my new beginning. Life has a funny way of working out, doesn't it? The person who tried to take everything from me ended up losing everything. And the person he tried to destroy ended up thriving beyond measure. That's not revenge, honey. That's just karma doing its job. So tell me, have you ever had to stand up for yourself when everyone expected you to fall apart? Have you ever had to be stronger than you thought possible? What would you have done in my situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it gave you strength or inspiration, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know whose life you might change with the truth. This is your Auntie D, reminding you that you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are stronger than you know. Don't let anyone write your story for you. Pick up that pen and write your own ending. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by subscribing so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Until next time, stay strong, stay wise, and remember, the truth always wins in the end. Always.